Okay, now we're going to talk about evaluating an athlete's sleep and how do we look at that and what things are important. So, how do we evaluate sleep? Sleep is evaluated by kind of a multi-factor system. We're looking really to maximize the benefits of sleep. So, just like you would evaluate a particular athlete at a particular position, right? Their size, their speed, their agility. When we're looking at how well someone's doing at sleep, we want to look at their quality. We want to look at the quantity of sleep, and then we want to look at the hygiene, or kind of the steps in which they get ready for sleep, go through sleep, and then wake up. So total hours of sleep, obviously that's clearly important. We want to evaluate someone's daily schedule for wake and sleep time. So, if you're sitting down with your child or working with an athlete, you want to look at, okay, on a school day, what time are you getting up? You'll be surprised that some people have to get up and drive to school and they need to get up at 4:30 in the morning. So I think that's really important to consider, as well as what time they go to sleep. So on a school day, it might be different. What is their practice schedule? Some teams will practice in the morning. Some teams will practice late in the evening. So I've seen some athletes with a 5:30 practice, 5:30 a.m. And then I've seen some athletes with a 7 p.m. practice. And you can see that may disrupt sleep patterns, especially if you have a long drive home. And then things change. If you have tournaments, those things change. If you have a travel schedule where you need to drive to the next state over, or 7 or 8 hours prior to your competition, those are important things to consider as well. The goal is really 8 to 10 hours like we talked about, but athlete specific. So I put together something of an example of how a total hours of sleep might look when you're evaluating an athlete. So athlete one on the left is a sample day. It's a practice day, right? So they wake up at 6:30. School starts at 7:45. Their first training time is at 7 p.m. and then they go to sleep at 10 p.m., right? So that sounds like a normal, average kind of individual, and you're getting an eight and a half hours of sleep. But you look at athlete 2, that doesn't seem that much different. But let's say they've got to drive a little bit further to their school, or their school starts an hour earlier than another athlete. So really, this athlete has to be up at 5:30 in the morning in order to get to school on time. So then they also live a little bit further away from where their school is, further away from their home. So by the time they get done practice or wherever they're training at, they can't get to bed until 11 p.m. So now you just have a simple change to that person's schedule in they live further away from school or their training session than the other athlete. And now we're taking their hours of sleep down to 6.5 rather than 8.5. And I think that would make a dramatic impact. So I'm not saying that you need to change where an athlete trains or goes to school. What I'm saying is you need to be thoughtful about how you plan out a day, because that may dramatically change how much sleep that athlete's going to get. Now, sleep latency is talking about the amount of time it takes to fall asleep. So those things that impact that are the sleep environment, your prior physical activity, stress, anxiety, smart device usage. So I really want people to shoot for a 10 to 25 minutes sleep latency. We really want to be less than 30 minutes, but ideally we want to be less than 15 minutes in terms of how long it takes you to fall asleep. And it's not a problem if it takes you longer than that, but it's something to think about. Can I optimize this even better? And things that we can change on our end as a parent, as a coach, as an athlete, can impact how long it takes to fall asleep. And then sleep interruptions. Those are things that we want to look at in an athlete as well. So how many times do you wake up at night? Is the athlete snoring? Do they have an injury? Have they just had a recent procedure where they're in pain? Stress, anxiety. So really we want no more than one time per night. Some people stay very well hydrated where they need to get up and use the restroom, but generally, if you're waking up more than one time per night, we really want to be asking ourselves, is something else at play here? And then restfulness looks at the quality of sleep. So I ask athletes about their morning alertness. So how alert do they feel when they first wake up within the first 15 to 30 minutes? Daytime sleepiness. So I've worked with an athlete who could not stay awake during the school day. Do they use an alarm clock? How often do they snooze? Do they have any behavioral issues in school or irritability? Those might be signs of poor quality of sleep. And then sleep hygiene. These are all the things we're going to dive a little bit deeper into and look at some of the research on that. But lighting, temperature, what sounds do you have, ambient sounds? Is your phone next to you? Is it alerting you? Do you have a very consistent routine? What's your strategy for naps? So sometimes people will not have that practice until 7 p.m. and they find that if they get an hour nap, they perform better. So do you have that planned out? What's your screen exposure 1 to 2 hours before bedtime? And then what's your workout timing? Some people don't do well if they're having an intense training session right before they go to bed. So thinking about strategizing that as well.